Thưa quý vị, một lần nữa phải khẳng định rằng là các doanh nghiệp có mô hình kinh doanh trực tiếp tạo ra những tác động tích cực cho xã hội, cho môi trường thì sẽ có được những lợi thế cạnh tranh ưu thế hơn so với những doanh nghiệp thuần túy chỉ tập trung vào lợi nhuận. Tuy nhiên thì đây là một xu hướng rất mới ở tại Việt Nam như chúng ta cũng đã biết. Và có một vấn đề mà cũng đang nhận được rất nhiều những câu hỏi mà vừa rồi chúng ta cũng đã lắng nghe trong bài trình bày của bà Ngọc. Đó chính là câu hỏi về nguồn vốn. Nguồn vốn đầu tư vào mô hình này đang như thế nào? Và các tổ chức, các cá nhân có ý tưởng để có thể bắt đầu những mô hình kinh doanh tạo tác động hoặc là chuyển dịch từ những mô hình truyền thống sang mô hình này thì sẽ phải tìm kiếm sự hỗ trợ về kỹ thuật, về nguồn vốn ở đâu và những tiêu chí đầu tư từ những nhà đầu tư trong lĩnh vực tạo tác động là như thế nào. Và ngay sau đây thì chúng ta sẽ cùng đến với phiên thảo luận đầu tiên và chúng ta sẽ cùng gặp gỡ với những vị đại diện đến từ các quỹ đầu tư, các tổ chức tư vấn. Họ sẽ chia sẻ với chúng ta về quan điểm đầu tư của họ vào những mô hình kinh doanh tạo tác động, những câu chuyện mà chính họ quan tâm, để từ đó những doanh nghiệp, những tổ chức của chúng ta có thể hiểu hơn về yêu cầu mà họ cần phải đáp ứng để có thể rút ngắn hơn quá trình đi đến hợp tác giữa các bên. Và ngay sau đây chúng tôi xin được trân trọng kính mời lên sân khấu các vị diễn giả sẽ cùng tham gia vào phần thảo luận này. Xin được trân trọng kính mời bà Christina Ameln, cố vấn tại Việt Nam, mạng lưới cho các nhà đầu tư xã hội ở châu Á, AVPN. Xin được trân trọng kính mời bà Shuyin Tang, đối tác hợp danh quỹ đầu tư Patamar. Trân trọng kính mời ông Darryl J, chuyên gia tài chính trưởng, tổ chức tài chính quốc tế IFC. Và chúng tôi cũng xin được mời người điều phối phiên thảo luận là ông Lưu Hoàng Hà, chủ tịch công ty Nami Energy. Vâng, ngay sau đây thì xin phép được nhường lại sân khấu cho ông Lưu Hoàng Hà sẽ là người giúp chúng tôi điều phối phiên thảo luận này cùng với các vị diễn giả của chúng ta. Xin mời.
Xin cảm ơn. Tôi xin phép nói tiếng Anh bởi vì các panelist không nói được tiếng Việt thành thạo. Xin chào đón quý vị đến với welcome to our panel Capital Investment in Impact Business. Sorry, when we talk about money, I'm always confused. So we enjoy great opening by Ms. Ngọc from UNEP, and as you all know, where the key largest challenge for impact business is capital. And there's no better way than talking to the investors, what they are thinking and how they could do more investment in impact business. I'm delighted to have very distinguished panelists today. Let me introduce one by one. On my far left is Christina. Christina is Vietnam advisor for AVPN, the largest network for social investor in Asia. She's also sustainability strategic and advisor at Purple Ivy, a Swedish management consultancy. She has over 20 years of experience in sustainability, social impact, and thought leadership. Thank you, Christina, for joining. The lady in middle, Shuyin Tang, she's a partner at Patamar Capital and co-founder and CEO of Beacon Fund. She spearhead Patamar gender land investing effort, including managing one of the first gender land investing fund in Southeast Asia, the Investing in Women Fund. She's also the co-founder and CEO of the Beacon Fund. Shuyin was named one of Australia 100 women of influence, and also an Asia 21 young leaders, and one of the 40 under 40 most influential Asia Australian in 2020. Welcome, Shuyin. Next to me is Darryl. He's from IFC in Hanoi, and he works as country office support and business development lead. Darryl devised strategic partnership, originate and lead new market creating projects and develop platform across IFC product and services. Before Vietnam, he's with IFC in Singapore, and he spent 25 years in Asia, including 6 years in Tokyo with GE Capital, and 8 years in Hong Kong with AIG Investment. And finally, I'm the moderator. I'm a lawyer by background, energy lawyers for more than 20 years. And recently, I, together with my co-venture, set up an energy investment company. We invest in renewable energy in Vietnam. And it's my great honor to moderate the panel. Let we start with how investors see impact businesses. And I think it's great we start with Christina. Could you introduce AVPN and also how you see the impact business landscape in Vietnam? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anh-ha. Before I answer this question, I actually want to take the time to very much thank Forbes Vietnam and Lin Center for Community Development for bringing us all together. The concept of impact and sustainability are very much hot topics, whether you're from business, working in the community, or in the government. So thank you very much again for pulling it together. So as Anh-ha did a lovely introduction, it also made me sound very old with 20 years in sustainability and impact. But I'm hoping that I can bring some clarity on the concept of capital and investment and impact. I'm Christina Ameln. I work for AVPN. And AVPN, as Anh-ha introduced, is the largest network of social investors in Asia. So we're headquartered in Singapore. We have 600 members across 33 markets. We have close to 380 in our deal share platform, and Vietnam is one of our markets. I'll be talking a little bit more about the network as well as this capital of investors and funders and the importance of collaboration. But before that, I do want to highlight some of our members that are here. There are a handful of them. There is Shuyin from Patamar. There is Lin Center, who's the co-host. And in the audience somewhere, we've got Ward Haven Capital. You can just wave your hand. There you are in the middle. And we also have Lego Group. Now, you're wondering why I'm name dropping. Well, I do want to be cool in front of this group of really esteemed hotshots, corporates, funders, etc. But I'm not only name dropping because of this cool factor, I'm name dropping to show the diversity of the sector that is using capital to invest in impact. So we've got Lin Center, who's a not-for-profit. We have Patamar, which is an impact investor. We have Ward Haven that invests in listed equities. And we have the Lego Group, a company that makes toys. So the amazing thing is that it doesn't have to be a specific niche that is going to invest or fund in impact. And with that, I just want to jump again to what Ms. Njop from UNDP talked about, the spectrum of capital. So AVPN often talks how we work with our network of 600 members. We talk about the spectrum of capital. So imagine this line as I'm holding the microphone. You'll have to work with me. There's this line here. And on one hand of the capital spectrum are those that are working in grants, so those in philanthropy, those that are really focused on the impact side. Now, we're looking at the other side of the spectrum, and we're talking about those corporates that their focus is really on commercial returns, on financial returns. Now, the exciting part, which we're really going to talk about today, is those in the middle. So those in the middle are those from sectors, whether it's nonprofit or corporates or investors, which are combining this financial return with creating value. So value creation when it comes to social and environmental issues. So why is this important? Why is this type of capital important? Well, first of all, look at the world we live in right now. You know, we've got lots of issues in development. We have challenges with climate change. There are many issues that we have to tackle, not only here in Vietnam, but across the world. So if we go back to a piece of data, and going back to the UN Sustainable Development Goals, so OECD, and this number can change a little up and down, but really the number you should hear is really high. And the OECD estimate that there is a 2.5 trillion USD financing gap towards the United Nations Sustainability Goals. And that there is an additional 1 trillion that's been added to it since the pandemic. So the COVID pandemic has put all the development work about a decade behind. So that is why this type of capital is really important, is that with this additionality, we can really push forward in ensuring this capital is moved towards greater impact and faster. And these type of investors and funders, they are really looking at innovative and catalytic ways to find solutions towards climate change, healthcare issues, poverty, etc. And that is one of the things I really wanted to highlight in the network we have. Now, one last point, you asked about Vietnam. Ms. Nhop has done a really great presentation on the scene in Vietnam. I wanted to add to it that in Vietnam, the concept of that value creation when it comes to social and environmental issues is still quite nascent. But there's this really exciting part of being a part of Vietnam is the energy and the vibrancy of Vietnam. It's been one of the golden children in Southeast Asia when it comes to investments in, and even post-COVID, there's still that energy. So even with the nascency, there's this opportunity to really step up to ensure the value creation, and where investors are interested in coming in is building that value creation that incorporates the financial side, but the social and the environmental. And that's why I'm a true believer that events like this, that Forbes Vietnam and Lin Center have pulled together, that bring in people together, that elevate mindsets on this topic, and ensure knowledge sharing will ensure that we really accelerate that greater impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christina. Sorry, I should have mentioned that we would be having a Q&A session at the end. We have about 10 minutes for Q&A, so we will be taking questions and comments then. Now, we have many areas for potential impact businesses, as Ms. Ngọc mentioned earlier. But see, in the audience, a lot of businesses, people interested in having capitals for expansion. So, Shuyin and Darryl, what are the area of your interest in Vietnam? Maybe Shuyin, you go first, and before that, could you introduce Patamar Capital? Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anh Ha, and also to the organizers, Forbes Vietnam, as well as the Lin Center for having us here today and convening this forum on a topic which is very near and dear to my heart. So I'm Shuyin Tang, and I'm a partner at Patamar Capital. We're a regional impact investing firm focused on Southeast Asia, and we manage 4 funds, and I'll share a little bit more about them later. So we've made over 40 investments in Southeast Asia, including 12 right here in Vietnam. And we've actually been recognized as one of the top 50 impact investors globally by Impact Assets for the past 8 years. A little bit about me. I've actually been in Vietnam for 10 years, and it's really been my great privilege to see the continued development of the capital markets broadly, but in particular, early stage investing and impact investment, and kind of have a front row seat in that. Well, to answer a bit of your question about what we focus on here in Vietnam, maybe first a little bit of a reflection, right? One of the fascinating things I think we've been highlighting today is the fact that maybe no two impact investors look exactly the same, right? And why is that? Well, I think it's actually quite natural because, you know, when we look at the social and environmental problems that we're being confronted with, actually they're very complex, they're very diverse. So it makes sense that there's not really a one-size-fits-all approach, right? So I think we've talked about the spectrum of capital, right? Different ways of tackling some of these issues. And I think our own work at Patamar Capital is a good example of that. Anyway, so my advice, I think, whether you're an impact investor or whether you're an impact business, is to really get clear about a number of things. I will boil them down to two. The first one is your intention, right, or intentionality. So what are you really setting out to do? And that's both from a financial perspective, in terms of the level of financial return, but then also in terms of the impact, right? I think we've just heard there are so many different ways you could be tackling different social and environmental problems. Which ones are you focused on in your business? And then the second one is measurability, right? And I do really want to highlight this because I think it's so important that us as, you know, impact investors or impact businesses really have some accountability, right? I mean, we say we're out here trying to achieve these great things from an impact perspective. How do we actually measure that? Let me give two very quick examples from our own funds to share how we do it at Patamar. So we have a number of funds which are impact venture capital funds. That's Patamar 1 and Patamar 2. And these are funds which invest in companies that create better economic opportunities for low and middle income communities as well as SMEs in Southeast Asia. And we invest at the seed and Series A stage and really are an active partner with the businesses that we invest in their growth and their impact. And we do measure our impact by looking very carefully at how our portfolio companies increase incomes, create better quality jobs, and also create new access to affordable and essential products and services. And I'm really glad to say that since our inception, we've actually impacted more than 6 million people through our investments. And then maybe one last example is a new fund that we've recently launched on the Patamar platform. And that's a fund called the Beacon Fund, really focused on closing the gender finance gap. And I think it's something we've heard a little bit about today, but hopefully we'll hear some more. But we launched the Beacon Fund to really provide more appropriate capital to companies that might not necessarily fit the venture capital model, might be a bit too small for private equity firms, but actually really interesting businesses, right, that are striving to have great both business as well as impact success. And look forward to sharing more today.
Thank you very much, Shuyin. So you own here the first criteria. Shuyin really interested in your intention. So if you did have the intention, or you are having the intention to create some impact by true business, you can see Shuyin during the break. Thank you. Darryl, so IFC made a lot of investment in Vietnam in impact businesses. Why don't you share with us about IFC's work and what are you looking for in Vietnam? What are you interested in?
My pleasure. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests. I'm Darryl Dong with IFC. Everyone's heard of IFC. Very few people know what we're all about. I will tell you that we're a member of the World Bank Group. It's good. We're the largest development institution globally. We only focus with private sector and only in emerging markets. Only in emerging markets. So our impact to the world's impact journey is pretty outsized. I will tell you that we started in 1956 and have now grown to 102 offices in 95 countries, 24 countries just in Asia. How much business do we do? In the last fiscal year, ending June 30, so in the last 12 months, we committed $33 billion. $33 billion dollars to local businesses for their sustainable growth. We were way ahead of the curve when we started. We were doing impact investing before anybody even knew what it was. We have a committed portfolio right now, or you'd call it AUM, of $75 billion. That's a lot of impact. But that's really just a drop in the bucket compared to what the world needs. Like you, we select our investments and manage our portfolio with a double bottom line, right? Financial IRR, but then development return. We grow dollars and we grow humanity. We don't do one or the other. It's got to be both. We help our partners. We help them across borders. We help them across products. And we help them over time. IFC, we are great stewards of long capital. We're patient. Our average investment may be 7, 8 years, but we'll hang in there with our borrowers for 15, 20 years. We don't leave our borrowers behind. We don't leave our investing companies behind. And you know, those of you in this business, this is a noble business. I came from Wall Street, far from noble. What we do in this room really does make a difference in this world. In Vietnam, what is IFC focused on? IFC is focused across all sectors in Vietnam. But Vietnam is in a very poignant inflection point. Vietnam, up till now, has grown at any cost. You know, FDI, just come on in. Developers, just build. But I give Vietnam a lot of credit. It's gotten itself to the new world. That was the easy part. Now the world's eyes are watching Vietnam. And to make it even tougher, Vietnam has proclaimed 2 astronomical goals. Vietnam will reach high-income country status by 2045. There's only been one country in the world that moved from middle income to high income in 20 years. That was Korea. Vietnam wants to be a Korea in development. Vietnam also, in front of the global stage, committed to 0 carbon by 2050. Brilliant! Now the world's sitting back saying, okay, show us. Okay. In Vietnam, there's a lot of folks focused on just development. There's a lot of guys just focused on climate. The key is, how do you combine them? And this is interesting. IFC and the World Bank did a study. We did an analysis, and we said, how much would it take Vietnam to achieve both goals? Any one of them are unbelievable in itself. But how does it do 2 goals at once? Because they're not mutually exclusive. They interchange, they intersect. And there's trade-offs. It's going to cost Vietnam. Hang on.
Any particular areas?
Yeah.
The top 3 areas before
Yeah,
we move
I'm
to,
gonna tell you.
To the next one. Yeah.
$370 billion is going to cost in present value dollars. That's $1 trillion it's going to cost Vietnam. It's got to green the economy. So we're focused on greening the financial sector, okay? Because that's going to help spur credit, to the economy. We're going to help build resilience in all products and services. So that's all the manufacturers, all the industry. We're going to help them get to the modern age. And then we're going to help with the energy transition. But that's a tall order for Vietnam. But I will say this, we're all here at the right place at the right time?
Very positive. Thank you, Darryl. So IFC is generally catching the net quite open. And thank you for sharing the great news, the great potential of the country. And certainly Vietnam made a very big commitment in terms of net zero. The challenge for us right now is I'm in the energy sector, and the energy production is the largest CO2 emission. And Vietnam generally is a bit slow in the macro level. So many of you know we are very slow in adopting the master power plant, where we try to include a lot of clean energy to replace coal and fossil fuel. The concern that further delay can disincentivize foreign investors looking for investment destination with access to clean energy. The delay could also give rise to concern about the potential blackout, the power shortage in the future. So we see the energy transition, the energy sector having great opportunities, very big impact business, but we are hoping the macro policy will be sorted out very soon. At the moment, the only viable access to clean energy at the very moment, I think it's a lot about distributed energy, rooftop solar at factories and industrial park. We are part of the investment community into distributed rooftop solar. All right, let me move to the next topic about our panels. So we talk about the concept, the landscape of impact businesses. We talk about the area of interest for investors. Many of the audience here very keen to understand how you go about making an investment. What kind of processes, what kind of criteria, requirement you have. Shuyin, you want to start about 2-3 minutes about how you do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I might reframe the question just a little bit, right? And maybe pose it as, how are we as impact investors, similar to, regular commercial investors? And how are we actually different from those, right? Well, there are definitely some aspects that are quite similar. So, we're definitely interested in understanding the story, the motivation, the experience, the skill set of the founding team, the management team of the business. We're interested in understanding the market and the competitive dynamics, right? The sustainable competitive advantage of a business. And, of course, we're interested in your company's financial performance, right? Both historical and projections. So I think maybe one tip, right, for working with impact investors is, don't leave your business brain at the door when coming to talk to us. And that might seem like a bit of a silly thing to say, but actually we do, as has also been emphasized during this forum, really focus on both the financial as well as the impact sides of the business. And I think that's important to remember. However, I think how are we different from, say, your regular, purely commercial investor? Well, we are, right? It's a must-have for us to understand how you set out to create a positive social impact, so that intentionality again, and then also how you plan to measure it. Well, what does that actually mean though, right? Does that mean, you have to fill in a 100-page, ESG questionnaire? Well, at least for us, I have good news for you. We actually don't do that. Because we're actually focused on measuring the impact, managing the impact in a way that really adds value to the business, right, and is also manageable for the business, but is also, of course, authentic and accountable. So what we do is we focus on a number of key metrics, grounded in international standards such as IRIS+, which are really the key bellwethers of impact performance, and many times as well, they're also, key drivers of business performance. So maybe let me just give a quick example. So for example, in an education business, we would look at metrics associated with, say, improved education outcomes, right? And that's very important, not just as an impact driver, right, to really know that you're having a difference and an impact on say, children's education, but it's also a business driver, because of course, if you're not delivering results, then that's going to cause problems for your customer acquisition as well as retention. So I think that hopefully makes it clear how practical and I think in some ways common sense impact measurement can be. I think my final thought on this topic is, don't worry if, when talking to an impact investor, you haven't got everything fully thought through and baked when you come and see us. It's definitely something that we work through with our portfolio companies throughout the due diligence process and also over the course of the investment.
Thank you. Darryl, 2 minutes.
We analyze investments and process them like all of you. We have our own process. But I want to add a couple points here to show you what we're about. Anybody can look at a deal when it's on the market. In fact, most of you do. We do too. But that's the end of the process for the developer, the sponsor. He's already thought through his project. He's already figured out his capital needs, and now he's going out for equity or debt. So IFC, we have a unique program. We work upstream. So yes, we opportunistically, transactionally look at a deal that's in the market. But you know what? As much as I'm looking at it, so is she. So we work with developers, we work with sponsors before there's even a deal. We work with them and co-create their business plan. Co-create their business plan. They don't even know the potential until we start talking. But we even go further upstream. We have a whole team that works with government. We create markets. We will work with government for regulatory reform to open markets, to break down bottlenecks. So that is not even talking about a client, that's just talking about the market. And from there, we then work with clients to bring them into these new created markets. And of course, then the financing and the investment, goes hand in hand with that. So that is one thing. It's not a direct answer to his question, but that is a little bit of a differentiator, when companies work with IFC. We kind of bring a holistic approach to the impact investment process.
Thank you. We are running a bit over time, so I just quickly move to the final session we have. Christina, you are part of the network. You talk to a lot of impact investors. What are the things you would like to see more in Vietnam so that more investment can be made into impact businesses?
Thank you so much for the question. I think that's a great question, and I just want to clarify again on the panel here. I come from a network, so we are 600 members. We don't fund or invest, we facilitate that through the collaboration between our members or with other types of partners. So I think that's a great thing to clarify. One of them might be Shuyin in impact investment. It might be another financial institution like IFC. So when we look at what we'd like to see in Vietnam, I'd like to go to the perspective of those with capital. And we talk a lot about capital in terms of money, but it can also be time and knowledge as well. So those with capital, or those that are funding in the spectrum of capital, whether you are a company or an investor, there are a number of things that keep popping up with regards to when they look in Vietnam. And I'm actually going to look at my cheat sheet here so I get this totally right, and mainly because there was a report that AVPN did together with the Center for Social Initiatives Promotion, CSIP. They're in the room here today. Ms. Swan, you can wave as well. And I hope I'm actually communicating the report properly. And the report was on the Vietnam impact investment landscape. So yes, the report was pre-COVID, but it's very relevant today, the findings that pop up. So many of them have not changed. And some of the challenges is really from the investor or the investment or the funder side is a lack of pipeline. So it's the other side. Ms. Njop, in her keynote speech, talked about actually impact organizations saying and crying out, there's not enough capital for us. But in actual fact, there's also the same outcry from those that are investing or funding in which there's not enough pipeline. And mainly because some of these organizations are just too small for them. A perfect example is one of our members, IKEA Social Entrepreneurship. So that part of IKEA works with social enterprises around the world. And what they're really trying to do is work with these social enterprises to have this positive impact, whether on gender, on poverty, or the communities they operated. The challenge they had when they came to Vietnam was that they had a will, but they couldn't find the way because the organizations were too small, the products were not up at par for them to take it then to their retail stores. So that is very much a challenge. Let me go to the other ones that are a challenge, is that there is a lack of knowledge on the market, and this is something that needs to be elevated. There is enterprises lacking experiences on how to work with investors, like Shuyin has mentioned. There's this gender bias to prevent women-led SMEs to access capital. And there's a lack of transparency and governance in investees. And of course, there's the last point that Shuyin also highlighted was this part of measurement, but this is really not only in Vietnam. This measurement or impact measurement is a challenge in Vietnam and in all markets. So if I could just take a couple of seconds to talk about the other side of the coin, and that is really the opportunities as well. For us, the investors or the funders, is that, you know, all these challenges are not going to go away. So better be prepared and meet the global challenges now so that you're around for the future. And put your capital to work. So when you're talking about value creation, let's put all three in the same bucket, and that's the financial, the social, and the environmental value creation. Another thing that's extremely important, and that I hear a lot, is how you align your values with the capital. And this is extremely important when it comes to our future and the next generation. They're much more engaged on these issues than any before. And it's so important for them. And then as again, many of the clients across the board, whether it's from the investor side or the client side, they are demanding it. And the last bullet point, as the event has really highlighted, yes, we can talk about value creation, we can talk all numbers, we can talk that this is really like an opportunity for Vietnam, but at the end of the day, it taps into our personal selves, how we work and how we do, and that is doing good.
Thank you. Shuyin, anything you can add?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think Christina gave such a great overview of, you know, of some of the different challenges as well as opportunities. I think, you know, let me just make a couple of points, right? I think in terms of the challenges, it's, yes, definitely one of the quintessential problems of impact investing, right? On one side, you have the impact investors saying that there's a lack of pipeline, right? And on the other side, there's the impact businesses saying that there's no investors. I think part of the solution here, and I think part of the challenge, I would say, to the investors in the room is to really challenge ourselves on how can we, you know, reach further to develop new ways of approaching financing, right? New ways of developing investment products that can better meet the needs and better suit some of these impact businesses, some of whom, as we mentioned, are often of a smaller scale. So I think one thing that we've done ourselves is that through our Beacon Fund, in fact, we have actually lowered our minimum investment size down to actually around $200,000 US, which is actually quite a bit lower than our typical investment size, to better support smaller sized women-led businesses as part of a catalytic facility. So I think in that way we have to meet the market where it is rather than waiting for all these companies to grow to a certain scale, right, where they're investable. I think in terms of maybe just final words or kind of reflections, I would say, I think just get started, right? Because every investment has an impact, right? I think we need to think about what it is. And I think remember there's kind of this ABC that we can think about, right? So starting with avoiding harm, right? I think that's a very natural baseline that we should be aware of. Then the B is benefiting stakeholders, looking at the people already involved and communities already involved in our business and seeing how we can improve their lives. And then C is actively contributing to solutions, right? And really centering the way that we do business around a positive impact. And I think it's, I would encourage all businesses and investors to think about the ABC.
Darryl, so Christina and Shuyin talk about the challenges that investors face and the businesses have been facing. Anything you can say from the government perspective in terms of enabling regulatory framework, what the government ministry can do to promote and facilitate more investment into impact businesses?
Absolutely. Everyone here in this room knows what Vietnam's about. It's the energy. There's no lack of ideas. There's no lack of great business leaders who want to create some innovative project or idea. That's not it. It's not even capital. Everyone's looking for capital, but I can tell you, there is capital sitting all around Vietnam, looking in. This country needs an enabling environment. So, to tell you the truth, we do big business here. In the last 12 months, we committed $2.6 billion, okay? That's a lot of money for Vietnam in 1 year for projects. This is not trading investments, this is project by project, 2.6 billion. But we have a very tough time, not with the investments, with the enabling environment. We say to the government, if you build it, they will come. If you build an enabling environment, the investors, the private investors for impact will come. And then we tell them, when those private investors for impact come, so does private finance. So we say to the government, help us help you. We're not asking for a favor. All of us here have frustrations with regulations. We're not asking for a favor. We're not asking for a handout. We're asking for a level playing field. This is what is going to hold Vietnam back if it doesn't overcome this. This enabling environment is key. And so I say to everyone in this room, we got to work together. Let us build the taxonomy. Let us design the products. Let us overcome the obstacles. And let us make the right impact investments that this country needs. And I challenge all of us. Let's aim high. Let's aim high. Let's lead the way, and let us do our good work.
Thank you very much. So we cover the area of interest for impact investors. We look at how they consider an investment, their processes, and also we just touch base on some challenges for doing deal. We would like to open the floor for question and comment. We have about 5-6 minutes for Q&A. Is there anyone having the microphone around? Cường, you mind giving... Can you stand up so that you can get a mic?
Okay, so I will ask my question in Vietnamese. So Can you be prepared? Or someone would translate, right?
Yeah, I can do for the...
Vâng, xin chào các quý vị ạ. Tôi là Huyền, tôi là nhà sáng lập và giám đốc của Trung tâm Bảo tồn Thiên nhiên Gaia. Thì hiện nay chúng tôi đang hoạt động trong lĩnh vực bảo tồn thiên nhiên. Chúng tôi là một tổ chức phi chính phủ, phi lợi nhuận đó. Và rất là mừng là trong thời gian qua chúng tôi đã được hợp tác với rất là nhiều doanh nghiệp khác nhau. Và đây cũng là lần thứ N rồi tôi tham gia cái hội nghị như thế này mà Linh tổ chức ấy. Và tôi đã thấy có một cái sự rất là thay đổi, rất là mừng luôn ấy. Là ở những năm đầu tiên ấy thì chúng ta nói về những doanh nghiệp mà làm các hoạt động CSR. Rồi sau đó chúng ta nói đến các doanh nghiệp làm các cái gọi là core share value. Xong rồi chúng ta lại tiến lên một nấc nữa là chúng ta có những gọi là chương trình ESG. Và năm nay thật sự là đỉnh cao hơn là chúng ta có các social impact business. Nghĩa là mỗi một năm tôi lại thấy có một cái sự thay đổi trong cái cách suy nghĩ của các doanh nghiệp trong việc tạo ra tác động ấy. Và đây là cái rất là đáng mừng. Nhưng mà câu hỏi của tôi á, bởi vì chúng tôi cũng làm việc với rất là nhiều doanh nghiệp cho nên chúng tôi muốn biết rõ cái câu chuyện này. Có nghĩa là vậy khi mà một doanh nghiệp muốn trở thành một social impact business ấy, thì điều gì là cái reward cho họ? Tại sao họ lại phải trở thành social impact business? Và khi mà trở thành social impact business như vậy thì cái lợi nhuận hoặc là cái giá thành của các sản phẩm ấy nó bị đẩy lên chẳng hạn. Thì cuối cùng là nó mang lại cái tác động như thế nào đối với người tiêu dùng? Và cuối cùng thì tất cả cái đó nó tạo ra cái tác động xã hội thì được tính như thế nào? Dạ.
Vâng, cảm ơn chị. So she's very excited of observing the progression from the discussion started with something like NGO, CSR, and now it's become a business, impact business. So the question she has is, what do you need from me? If I want to do an impact business, what do you need from me? She comes from an NGO for natural preservation. Any of you want to take on the question?
What's the question?
So the question is, why should I do impact business? What reward I'm getting?
I can answer in part. I think going back to the challenges that we have in the world today, I think most businesses, whatever the size, should have an element of impact in it. There is no getting around it. If you're looking at the sustainability of your business, whether you're a small or medium enterprise, or whether you are a large Vietnamese company or you're a multinational, in terms of business, the business side, that is, for me, an actual no-brainer. On the other side, with regards to those that will be investing or funding towards it, that ask with regards, I heard ESG, etc., that is one of those big asks that is just increasing more and more. And the criteria for giving capital to any business in many ways is that they will incorporate as well the financial return, but what are you prepared in terms of what's coming the way on any social and climate issues?
Thank you, Christina.
Does that help you answer the question?
So we might move to the next one. Cương, you have a question or comment?
Thank you, the panel. I do have a question on the new model. Let's say we talked about impact business model. Not many people.
Can we have 1 minute?
Not many people understand this new concept. Let's just say Forbes introduced circular economy. It's even very new to the world. Impact business model, that's why we're here today, to learn what it is. When the three of you, from a funding side, looking at opportunities around the world, and more specifically in Vietnam, you say, we don't have deal flows. We don't have enough business to put money in. What can these organizations do to help nurture, because it's so new, we need to educate, we need to nurture people with ideas, not when they actually start generating positive cash flow or even any revenue. So we expect the crowd in here to say, I have an idea on impact business and I'm making money. Would you be interested in investing? That's not the reality here today. So the questions for the panel.
We are running out of time, so let me just take on the question as a closing remark for the panels, if you don't mind. I think you, Pop and Lynn Center, you are doing a great job. And you are doing what exactly answers our question. I think the gathering today, the discussion today brought together the investors, the impact business community, the people who are interested in it, who want to promote it. So the forum is just like a great connectors for everyone. And we even talk about what the government need to be doing. So personally, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today. And I'm seeing personally it as a great start to bring investors and business together for great forum to raise the issues for the government in terms of enabling regulatory framework to facilitate much more investment in impact businesses. So thank you, Forbes and Lynn Center. Thank you, Darryl, Shuyin, and Christina. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our moderator and also our panelists, and please remain on stage. Và ngay sau đây chúng tôi xin được trân trọng kính mời bà Khổng Loan, Phó Thư ký Tòa soạn tạp chí Forbes Việt Nam sẽ lên sân khấu để trao tặng kỷ niệm chương cho những diễn giả cũng như là người điều phối phiên thảo luận của chúng ta. Once again, thank you so much for giving us a very informative panel discussion. Một lần nữa, cảm ơn quý vị và xin được cảm ơn bà Khổng Loan. Thank you.